I was 7 months pregnant, standing on my doorstep with my suitcase, while my husband's mistress smirked from my bedroom window. The entire neighborhood watched as my mother-in-law called me worthless, but then 2 white Rolls-Royces pulled up, and everyone's faces went pale. That day changed everything. If you love stories where the underdog gets ultimate revenge and karma hits hard, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. 3 years ago, I thought I'd found my fairy tale. Brandon Montgomery swept me off my feet when I was working as a waitress at this upscale restaurant downtown. He was handsome, charming, and came from old money, the kind of family that had their name on hospital wings and museum plaques. When he proposed after 6 months, I couldn't believe someone like him wanted someone like me. His mother, Patricia, wasn't thrilled. I'll never forget our first meeting. She looked at my dress, my shoes, my hair, and I could see her mentally calculating my worth. It wasn't much in her eyes, but Brandon insisted he loved me, and eventually she gave us her blessing. Or at least, that's what I thought at the time. We got married in this gorgeous ceremony at their estate. I moved into the Montgomery mansion, this sprawling property with manicured gardens and more rooms than I could count. The neighbors were all wealthy, the kind of people who drove expensive cars and took vacations to places I'd only seen in magazines. They were polite to me, included me in their garden parties and charity events. I helped organize fundraisers, baked cookies for the neighborhood kids, and tried my best to fit into this world that felt so foreign. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Brandon was attentive, Patricia was civil, and I felt like maybe, just maybe, I'd actually made it. Then I got pregnant. I was so excited. I thought a baby would bring us even closer together, make me a real part of the Montgomery family. I decorated the nursery myself, painted it in soft cream, and put up these beautiful cloud decals. I'd spend hours in there, imagining what our baby would look like, planning our future. But around my 5th month of pregnancy, things started to change. Brandon began working late, really late. He'd come home after midnight, sometimes not at all. When I'd ask him about it, he'd get defensive. "The business is struggling, Allison. I'm trying to keep us afloat." His phone was constantly buzzing, and he'd leave the room to take calls. I tried not to be suspicious. I tried to trust him, but something in my gut kept telling me that something was wrong. Then Vanessa showed up. Patricia introduced her at a family dinner as Brandon's old college friend who'd just moved back to town. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women are. Designer clothes, perfect hair, the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. She sat across from Brandon at dinner, and I watched them laugh about old times, inside jokes I wasn't part of. Patricia beamed at her like she was the daughter she'd always wanted. After that, Vanessa was everywhere. She'd drop by the house unannounced. She'd be at every family event. Patricia would invite her to things without telling me. I'd come downstairs for breakfast and find Vanessa already there, drinking coffee in my kitchen like she owned the place. And the way she looked at Brandon, the way she'd touch his arm when she talked to him, it made my stomach turn. I tried talking to Brandon about it. I told him it made me uncomfortable how much time he was spending with her. He laughed it off. "You're being paranoid, Allie. Vanessa is just a friend. You're letting your pregnancy hormones make you jealous." Patricia backed him up, saying I was being insecure and that I should be grateful Vanessa was willing to be friends with someone from my background. That comment stung, but I swallowed it down like I'd swallowed down so many of her little digs over the years. Then one day I found a diamond bracelet in Brandon's car. It was gorgeous, delicate, with a small V engraved on the clasp. It wasn't mine. When I confronted him, he barely looked up from his laptop. "It's for a client's wife. I'm supposed to give it to her at tomorrow's meeting." His voice was so casual, so unconcerned. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But the next week, I saw Vanessa wearing that exact bracelet at a charity luncheon. She caught me staring at it and smiled, this cold, knowing smile that made my blood run cold. I felt like I was going crazy. Everyone around me was acting like everything was normal, but I could feel the ground crumbling beneath my feet. I decided I needed to know the truth. One afternoon, when Brandon was supposedly at work and Patricia had left for her country club meeting, I went looking for answers. I wasn't trying to spy, I just needed something to prove I wasn't losing my mind. That's when I heard voices coming from the study. I recognized Patricia's sharp tone and Vanessa's lighter laugh. I stopped outside the door, my heart pounding. Patricia was saying, "Once she's gone, you'll marry Brandon properly. Your father's company merger will save Montgomery Industries, and we'll all be much better off." Vanessa responded, "I can't wait to redecorate this place. Her taste is so pedestrian, though this pregnancy does complicate the timeline." Patricia sighed. "We'll deal with that after the baby comes. DNA test, quick divorce, and then we move forward with our plan." I must have gasped because suddenly the room went silent. The door swung open, and there they were, Patricia and Vanessa, staring at me like I was an intruder in my own home. Patricia's face went from shocked to cold in seconds. "Well," she said, straightening her pearl necklace, "I suppose this saves us the trouble of explaining." I couldn't breathe. "What are you talking about? What plan?" Vanessa crossed her arms, all pretense of friendliness gone. "Oh, please, don't play dumb. You had to know this was coming." Before I could respond, Brandon walked in. I turned to him, tears already streaming down my face. "Tell me this isn't true. Tell me you're not planning to leave me for her." He wouldn't look at me. He just stood there, staring at the floor like a coward. That's when I knew. Everything I'd feared, everything I'd tried to convince myself I was imagining, it was all real. Patricia stepped forward, her voice ice cold. "My son deserves better than a nobody orphan who trapped him with a pregnancy. You were a mistake from the beginning." "I'm not an orphan," I said, my voice shaking. "I have brothers. They'll help me." Patricia actually laughed. "Oh, please. We had you investigated before Brandon proposed. 2 brothers who disappeared years ago. They're probably dead or in prison. You have no one, Allison. You've always had no one. That's why you clung to my son like a parasite." That was it. That was the moment I realized I'd been living in a fantasy. These people never loved me. They never accepted me. I was just an inconvenience they'd tolerated, and now they were throwing me away. I wanted to scream, to fight, to make them see how wrong this was. But I was 7 months pregnant, exhausted, and completely alone. Or so they thought. The next day, everything exploded. It was a bright, sunny afternoon around 2 o'clock. I was in the nursery, trying to process everything that had happened, when Patricia barged in with 2 servants. "Pack her things," she commanded. "I want her out within the hour." I stared at her in disbelief. "You're kicking me out? I'm carrying your grandchild." Patricia's face was stone. "We'll do a DNA test after the baby is born. Until we have proof, you're not welcome in this house." The servants wouldn't look at me as they started pulling clothes from the closet, throwing them into suitcases. I tried to stop them, but Patricia grabbed my arm. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You should have known better than to reach above your station." I pulled away from her and ran downstairs, looking for Brandon. I found him in the living room with Vanessa, and they were looking at wedding magazines. Wedding magazines. "Brandon, please," I begged. "Don't let her do this. I'm your wife. This is our baby." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were empty. "I'm sorry, Allison. But Vanessa and I, we make sense. We're from the same world, the same class. You were a nice distraction, but it's time to face reality." Those words broke something inside me. The man I loved, the father of my child, was throwing me away like garbage. Within minutes, my suitcases were being tossed onto the front lawn. I stumbled outside, and that's when I realized the entire neighborhood was watching. Mrs. Henderson next door had stopped watering her garden. Mr. Cooper had paused his car in the middle of the street. The teenagers playing basketball had frozen mid-game. Everyone was staring at the spectacle of me being thrown out of my own home. Patricia followed me outside, and she made sure her voice carried across the entire street. "This woman trapped my son with a pregnancy. She came from nothing, a waitress, and she saw an opportunity to get her hands on Montgomery money. Well, we've seen through her scheme." The neighbors gasped and whispered. I could feel their judgment, their eyes crawling over me like insects. Then Vanessa appeared on the porch, clinging to Brandon's arm like she already owned him. "Brandon and I have been in love for years," she announced to everyone. "We're finally free to be together." I stood there on the sidewalk, 7 months pregnant, with my entire life in 2 suitcases at my feet, and I'd never felt more humiliated in my life. Patricia wasn't done. She kept going, making sure everyone heard. "We gave her everything: clothes, jewelry, a home she could never afford on her own. And this is how she repays us, by trying to trap my son with a baby that might not even be his?" I wanted to disappear. I wanted the earth to open up and swallow me whole. Some of the neighbors had their phones out, recording. A teenage boy was filming the whole thing, probably to post on social media. I tried to defend myself, but my voice came out weak and broken. I loved him. I thought we were happy. Brandon finally spoke up, and what he said destroyed me. "I'm sorry, Allison, but Vanessa and I, we make sense. Same world, same expectations. You were sweet, but you were never going to fit in here. Not really." Vanessa actually smirked at me. "You can keep those cheap clothes. We'll buy everything new and proper." I sat down on my suitcase right there on the curb and started crying. I had no money. Brandon controlled all our accounts. I had no car. It was registered in his name. My old friends had stopped calling months ago, and I realized now that Patricia had probably gotten to them, poisoned them against me. I had no phone credit left to call anyone. I was completely, utterly alone. The only person who showed me any kindness was old Mr. Wilson from down the street. He walked over slowly with his cane and handed me a bottle of water. "Use my phone, dear," he said quietly. "Call whoever you need to call." His kindness made me cry harder. I took his phone with shaking hands and dialed a number I hadn't called in 3 years. My brother Gabriel answered on the first ring. "Allie, is that you?" I could barely get the words out. "Gabriel, they threw me out. I'm pregnant and they threw me out on the street. Please, I need help." "Stay exactly where you are," he said, and his voice was pure steel. "We're coming. Don't move." He hung up, and I handed Mr. Wilson back his phone. I sat there on that curb for 15 minutes, watching my neighbors watch me, feeling the weight of their judgment and pity. Patricia was still on the porch, looking triumphant. Brandon and Vanessa had gone back inside, probably to continue planning their new life together. Then I heard them, the sound of powerful engines getting closer. 2 pristine white Rolls-Royce Phantoms turned onto our street, and everything stopped. These weren't just expensive cars, they were custom, with pearl white paint and gold trim. Each one was worth more than $500,000. They stopped directly in front of the Montgomery estate, and the entire street went silent. The first car door opened, and Gabriel stepped out. My oldest brother, who I hadn't seen in 3 years. He was tall, imposing, wearing a perfectly tailored gray suit and a watch I recognized as a Patek Philippe. He looked like he'd stepped out of a Forbes magazine. The second car opened, and Lucas emerged. My other brother, equally commanding in a burgundy suit, every inch of him radiating power and wealth. They saw me sitting there, pregnant and crying, and I watched their faces change. Gabriel's jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jump. Lucas's eyes went cold as ice. They walked over to me, and Gabriel knelt down right there on the curb, not caring about his expensive suit. "Allie," he said gently, taking my hands, "we're here now. You're safe." Lucas stood behind him, his eyes scanning the crowd that had gathered. "Who did this to you?" The neighbors were whispering frantically now. Mrs. Henderson turned to her husband. "Those cars. Oh my God, do you know how much those cost?" Someone else said, "Who are these people?" I looked up at my brothers, these men I'd kept my distance from because I wanted a normal life, and I'd never been so grateful to see anyone. Gabriel helped me stand while Lucas picked up my suitcases like they weighed nothing. They turned to face the mansion, and I saw Patricia's confident smile start to fade. Brandon had come back outside, looking confused. Vanessa's smirk was disappearing fast. Gabriel's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "I'm Gabriel Chen, CEO of Chen Technologies." The crowd gasped. Even I was surprised. I knew they'd been successful, but the Gabriel Chen? From the news? Lucas stepped forward. "Lucas Chen, CFO of Chen Technologies. We're Allison's brothers." Patricia actually stammered. But she said we investigated. You were supposed to be—" Gabriel's smile was cold. "Dead? In prison? Is that what you told yourselves to make this easier? Let me make something very clear. Our sister is worth more than your entire family's assets combined." Lucas pulled out his phone, and his fingers flew across the screen. "Let me tell you all who these people really are," he said, addressing the entire crowd of neighbors who were now filming everything. "Patricia Montgomery, your family business is $15 million in debt. Montgomery Industries is failing. You're on the verge of bankruptcy." The crowd's murmuring got louder. Patricia's face went red. "That's private information. You have no right—" Gabriel cut her off. "I own your debt. As of 1 hour ago, I purchased every single loan, every mortgage, every outstanding bill your family has. This house, mine. Your company, mine. Everything you think you own, it's mine now." The look on Patricia's face was priceless. All her arrogance, all her cruelty, it drained away as she realized what was happening. But Lucas wasn't done. He turned to Vanessa, who was trying to inch away. "And you, Vanessa Sterling, should we tell everyone about your 3 previous engagements? All to wealthy men, all broken off when you found richer targets." He pulled out a tablet and started showing photos to the crowd. Pictures of Vanessa with different men, all older, all clearly wealthy. "You're not in love. You're a professional gold digger." Vanessa's face went white. "That's slander. I'll sue you." Gabriel laughed. "Please do. I have 50 lawyers on retainer who would love the entertainment." Then Lucas dropped the bomb that made everyone gasp. "But here's the best part. Vanessa Sterling is already married, to a businessman in Dubai, still legally married." He showed the marriage certificate on his tablet, and the crowd erupted in shocked whispers. "This whole thing was fraud," Gabriel said. "The planned marriage to Brandon, illegal. The merger, based on fraudulent pretenses." In the distance, I could hear sirens. Lucas smiled. "Oh, that's probably the police. I called them about the marriage fraud. They're very interested in talking to you, Vanessa." Vanessa tried to run to her car, but police cars were already pulling up. News vans were arriving too. Lucas had called the media. This quiet suburban street was turning into a circus, and the Montgomerys were the main attraction. Patricia tried to go back inside the house, but Gabriel blocked her path. "That's my house now. Foreclosed as of 20 minutes ago. You're trespassing." Brandon finally found his voice. "You can't do this. We have rights. We'll fight this in court." Lucas pulled out another document. "Your mortgage. I own it. Your business loans. I own them. Your country club membership? Revoked. Your credit cards? Canceled. Your bank accounts? Frozen by court order pending investigation of fraud. You have nothing, Brandon. Just like you tried to leave our sister with nothing?" I watched it all unfold like a dream. The police questioning Vanessa while she cried and protested. News cameras filming Patricia as she screamed about injustice. Brandon standing there, finally understanding that he'd thrown away the one real thing in his life for a con artist and a business deal that was never going to happen. The neighbors who'd watched me get humiliated were now watching the Montgomerys fall apart, and I could see the shift in their eyes. They'd judged me, but now they were seeing the truth. Mrs. Henderson came over to me, shame on her face. "Allison, I'm so sorry. We didn't know. If we'd known—" I just nodded. What could I say? They'd watched me get thrown out and done nothing. But Gabriel put his arm around me. "My sister doesn't need apologies from people who judge first and ask questions later. Come on, Allie, let's go." They led me to one of the Rolls Royces, and I sank into the leather seats. As we pulled away, I looked back at the mansion I'd called home for 3 years. Patricia was arguing with police. Vanessa was being put into a police car. Brandon was standing alone on the lawn, and for the first time, I saw regret on his face. But it was too late. Far too late. The next few weeks were a blur. Gabriel and Lucas took me to a 5-star hotel and got me the best medical care money could buy. They hired a team of lawyers who demolished Brandon in court. The DNA test proved the baby was his, not that I'd ever doubted it. The judge was disgusted by what Brandon and his family had done. Full custody to me, with Brandon ordered to pay $50,000 a month in child support. "From what income?" he'd asked the judge desperately. "Figure it out," the judge had replied coldly. I watched from a distance as the Montgomery empire crumbled. The business went bankrupt. Patricia lost everything and ended up cleaning houses for a living, the ultimate irony for a woman who'd looked down on service workers her whole life. Vanessa went to minimum security prison for fraud. Her father's company collapsed under investigation. Everything they'd built on lies and cruelty fell apart. 3 months after that terrible day, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl in a private hospital suite. I named her Hope because that's what she represented, a new beginning, a better future. Gabriel and Lucas were there, these fierce, powerful men reduced to tears by their tiny niece. I'd never felt more loved, more protected, more valued. My brothers helped me start my own business, a consulting firm that helps women escape abusive situations and rebuild their lives. I used everything I'd learned, all the pain I'd endured, to help others. Within 6 months, I was featured in Forbes magazine. Not as someone's wife, not as someone who'd married well, but as Allison Chen, successful entrepreneur and advocate. 1 year after that sunny afternoon when my world fell apart, I was having lunch at an upscale restaurant with Hope. She was babbling happily in her high chair, and I was reading over a contract for a new client. That's when I saw him through the window. Brandon was walking down the street in a delivery uniform, carrying bags of food to customers. He looked tired, defeated, nothing like the confident man I'd married. Our eyes met through the glass. I saw everything in his face, regret, shame, the full weight of what he'd lost. He'd thrown away a woman who loved him, a daughter who would have adored him, a life that could have been beautiful. And for what? A con artist, a business deal that never materialized, and his mother's approval. Now he had nothing. I looked down at Hope, healthy and happy, surrounded by people who genuinely loved us. I looked at my life, successful, independent, meaningful. Then I looked back at Brandon one more time. I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel hurt. I felt nothing but peace and maybe a little bit of pity. I smiled at my daughter, gathered our things, and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. He watched me leave, I'm sure, but I never turned around. That chapter was closed. I'd learned the hardest way possible that sometimes the family you're born with isn't the one that matters. Sometimes the people who share your blood are the ones who save you when the world tries to break you down. And sometimes the person you thought was your fairy tale ending is just a lesson you needed to learn. They thought I was nothing because I came from nothing. But blood doesn't determine worth. Character does. My brothers taught me that family isn't who shares your DNA, it's who shows up when you're broken. Brandon, Patricia, Vanessa, they all chose greed over humanity, and now they have nothing while I have everything that matters. If this story showed you that karma is real and real family always wins, smash that like button right now. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have forgiven Brandon if he begged? And hit subscribe because I've got more stories of revenge, justice, and people getting exactly what they deserve. Remember, treat people right, because you never know who their family is. See you in the next one, and never forget, you're worth more than anyone's opinion of you.